Hello everyone, and welcome to Autocrat. This is our second bonus episode, and today we will be looking at the Marble Emperor. We're still right at the beginning of our story, so we thought it would be interesting to introduce a myth we would only have reason to talk about right at the end, and which we will probably cover with more primary sources when we get to it. This is because this is a myth centered on the events of 1543 at the end of the life of the Eastern Roman Empire. Specifically, it is to do with the last Roman Emperor, Constantine XI. As we'll see, Constantine XI is a part of a legend called the King Under the Mountain. So let's talk about the King Under the Mountain.
Yes, so this is a royal title among the dwarves. Dane II restored the title of King Under the Mountain in 2941 of the Third Age. We won't go into events before that, as this leads to spoilers for the Hobbit, but he ruled until 1319 when he was succeeded by his son Thorin III, already over 100 years old when he took power and... Oh wait, no. This is the wrong universe, isn't it?
It is!
Yes, this is King Under the Mountain in Tolkien's Legendarium. We're talking about the Roman Emperor myth. Okay, well, let's reboot. With that obvious joke out of the way, let's now move on to the actual story, shall we? And to do that, we need to talk about the myth as discussed by, among others, Marios Philippides.
The story goes that a Greek man who ran a shop in that neighborhood made a little burial site and claimed it was the site of the burial of Constantine XI. The Ottoman powers that be stopped it.
Okay.
This grave disappeared in 1904, but it could still be seen on the debris in 1908.
Right.
An 1892 source mentions this burial place without mentioning the myth.
Yeah.
It says that there is a tomb for Constantine XI. It is close to the Wefa Mosque by a willow tree. There is, by the willow tree, a block of marble with no writing on it.
Okay, so this is the supposed burial site of Emperor Constantine XI.
Yes.
However, there was never an actual burial site for Emperor Constantine. This is because he was never located after the siege of 1453. The bodies of those who had protected Constantinople, including the emperor, were thrown into the moat and burned. And from what I remember from the actual siege of Constantinople, he takes off any distinguishing features that could have pointed him out as emperor and rushes in to protect the city along with the common soldiers. Even if the Ottomans had specifically located his body, they would have burnt it as well, as they couldn't afford to have a concrete site where Constantine was buried, as it would have become a hotbed location for dissent. However, even though Constantine is dead and has been since 1453, he does have something of an afterlife. One of my sources mentions that he becomes something of a martyr or a saint, which warrants a bit of a divergence here into whether or not he's actually a saint or whether that's just an expression. It turns out he is not, although other emperors such as Constantine I and Justinian I are, at least in the Orthodox tradition. Apparently, it would have been controversial to beatify him while the Ottomans were still ruling, as it would have been viewed as rebellious. I suppose I can see that. You know, you've got the leader of a previous regime being made a saint very pointedly while the next regime is still in charge.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the fact that he was technically Catholic upon his death rather than Orthodox, but let's not get into that because that's ages and ages away and also not relevant to today's topic. However, there is an unofficial day celebrating him as May 29th, the day the city actually falls.
Oh.
Anyway, the point is, he became just as popular as figures such as King Arthur, and here I believe you're going to tell us a little bit more about King Arthur, because the story of what happens to him is relevant to what happens to Constantine.
So, yes, we need to diverge here to talk about Arthur as mentioned in the Annales Cambriae.
Okay.
After he and Mordred undergo their downfall at Camlan in 539 CE, Arthur is said to have been taken to the island of Avalon. This is an island of eternal life and staying young forever. Arthur is waiting there until he is called to help his country again. This story was born when the Celts were being subjugated by the Anglo-Saxons. Now, Constantine XI also vanished after he fought for the last time.
Okay, so there's parallels between the two stories, disappearing and then potentially coming back again at some future date.
Yeah.
Which I believe you're going to tell us more about later on. But in the real world, people began remembering Constantine XI as a representative of a glorified past, with the actual real-world issues, divides and squabbling of the time being conveniently forgotten. He also became representative of the idea of the empire being brought back in the future. This story would eventually evolve into the Megali idea, which foresaw the dismemberment of the Ottomans and a resurrection of the Christian Balkans under the Greek people. These Greek people were pointedly noted as the inheritors of Constantine XI's legacy. And apparently, the Lamentation of Constantinople writes there is a rumour that Constantine XI was hidden by God instead of dying. And to turn to the final version of events, we need to turn to you again for what the myth of the Marble Emperor actually is.
The final version of this story is as follows. Constantine's horse was killed under him.
Okay.
However, just as he was about to be killed by a sword blow, an angel descended and took him away. He was spirited off to a cave near the Golden Gate and was petrified. Gives Harry Potter vibes. Supposedly, he's waiting for the angel to return. The Ottomans knew what had happened but could not locate the cave. They blocked off the Golden Gate where he is said to re-enter the city. When the angel comes back, Constantine will wake up and be given his sword from 1453. He will then travel into Constantinople via this Golden Gate, and he and his soldiers will chase the Turks out. They'll be chased all the way to something called the Red Apple Tree, held to be the Turkish birthplace.
Okay. I must say, I find the idea funny that although the Golden Gate has been, let's say, bricked up to stop him coming back in, Constantine just crashes through it anyway.
Yeah.
I was also not expecting to have a Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter reference in the same episode. Anyway, so we've seen now that both King Arthur and Constantine XI have a myth that they are not dead but just sleeping, or in some form not dead but held in stasis, and that they will come back at some later date. This idea of a figure not being dead but instead sleeping or otherwise is surprisingly common. To name a few examples, it's also listed as being true for Merlin, the Welsh rebel Owain Glyndŵr, who, brief summary here, I think tried to gain Welsh independence in about 1400, independence from England that is. We also get it for Harold II of England, who loses the Battle of Hastings to William the Conqueror, Charlemagne, Francis Drake, Theseus, who we last saw a few episodes ago, Sebastian I of Portugal, Vlad the Impaler, and Genghis Khan. So Constantine XI is part of a very rich tradition here.
Nice.
So, that was the topic of the Marble Emperor as a quick summary. We had this topic recommended to us by someone, I believe, right?
Yes, on Instagram. So if you have any request for episode or theme you would like to see, you can always tell us on Instagram or in the comment or by email, and we'll do our best to make the episode.
Yeah. In some cases, such as with this episode today, we might not actually cover the topic for I don't know how long from now, but it means that we get an opportunity to look at it through a bonus episode well in advance.
Yes. This is now coming to the end of our episode. Do leave us a like, do go see our Instagram and YouTube and
Wherever
website.
Yeah.
And website. We still have the poll up to vote ourselves in as Emperor and Empress of the Fourth Rome. So
Exactly.
have a listen to that episode if you haven't already. It's really cool.
Yep.
And have a great week, everyone, and see you next week for the next part of our Hercules saga.
Yeah, have a great week. So was the Marble Emperor what you were expecting?
Not really.
What were you